Guys, I just wrapped up editing a brand new video of one of our swimmers learning how to breathe for the first time, and she shares some of the key takeaways that she has from starting with anxiety to building all the way up to being a confident swimmer and being able to take a breath every single time she tries. You are not going to want to miss today's episode. Let's go.
Let's kick it off. I got anxious because I wasn't in rhythm with myself. Who can relate to that? I mean, that's so common. What she goes on to say here is, I let my mind go on wandering. All right, so this is really, really common. As we're learning how to swim for the first time, one of two things happens. Either we come into the lesson with prior fear or anxiety, most of the time that was created when we were a child, whether we were thrown in, had a near drowning, witness to drowning, these kind of things. And then we carry through tension and anxiety, and what that ends up doing is creates a lot of problems for us in the water, because when our muscles are tense, it creates density. Or as she's talking about, the second most common thing is we start future tripping. What's going to happen if I get in deep water? What's going to happen if I can't take a breath or I choke on water? What are the things that could happen in the future? Humans are a very special species. We're really the only ones that can create a real emotional response in the body over something that hasn't actually happened. And so this is what you're seeing inside of this, is she's going through and sharing that her mind is wandering, which is causing the tension in the body. As I mentioned, stick around to the end because she's going to go over really her tips for you on what she realized by applying both our relaxation techniques, which we did off camera prior to getting in the water, which for those of you who are interested is about a 10 to 15 minute meditation, and then about 5 minutes of intentional deep breathing exercises where we go 4-second inhale through our stomach, where we expand it, really get a tummy breath, pull it up to our chest for 4 seconds, where we hold it at the top, exhale for 4 seconds, and then we hold it at the bottom for 4 seconds. But nonetheless, let's hop into the analysis here and start to break down her process of breathing. All right, so what you're seeing here is she's pushing off the wall. And then as our hands split apart, we want to go into our breath and lift our chin forward. All right, so let's show this one more time. All right, let's break this down a little bit. So ideally, as soon as your hands break apart, we need to lift the chin up to take our breath. Okay, so one of the things that we're working on inside of this is that notice she's a little late in breathing. All right, take a look at this first one. Notice that she doesn't start lifting her head until her hands are almost completely to her side. The problem with this is that we use the hands to help pull our head up. And if they're already all the way out to our side, that's really late in the process, and it just puts a lot more stress on our body, makes the movement a lot more difficult. So my recommendation is we just work on that and starting to lift our head up a little earlier in the movement. The other thing too is once we have momentum, this becomes much easier to do. It's much more difficult to do from a static position. So let's see, this is probably her 7th or 8th attempt. Let's go back just a little bit here. And you can see she's getting much more smooth with the movement. All right, notice how her head is coming up now as soon as her arms start to go apart. So a really awesome job at applying some of the feedback that we gave right away. But notice also that as she's lifting her head forward, her chin is not coming 6 to 12 inches above the surface of the water. It's just laying right on the surface. And that is a huge point as you're going through this. you want to get your mouth out of the water enough so that you're not swallowing any of that water and it's not getting in your mouth, but you don't want to go so high that you're putting unnecessary amounts of force to get your head out of the water, right? Every time our head is out of the water, meaning not looking straight down, that our head weighs a lot and it puts a lot of stress in our body. And so we want to just try to balance it right on the surface of the water. Now notice as she continues, look how smooth that is. And this is probably at about attempt 15 overall. So really, really good job. What you're going to notice, if your head goes up too high also, it's going to cause this opposite reaction where we end up going underwater pretty far, and then it takes a second for our body to adjust back up. The smoother we are in the movement, the easier it is to stay on top of the water and to do this consecutively. All right, so really, really important. But here's what she shares with us about her process. It's all about being in rhythm with yourself and making it one movement. Our head is not a separate movement from our body where, we're trying to just lift our neck up. Our body goes through that one movement. And the more that you can do that in rhythm as your hands separate apart, the easier that's going to be. And check out this. This is a huge point for our new swimmers. I get asked this all the time. When we're breathing for the first time, learning to lift our head up out of the water, do we take a breath out of our nose or out of our mouth? All right, this is really, really important. When we're lifting our head up forward, we do not want to breathe out of our nose. All right, there's a lot of water that is going to be kind of residual water once we lift our head up. We absolutely don't want to breathe out of our nose because we end up sucking that in and it just doesn't feel good. And that can cause major setbacks, anxiety, fear, stuff like that. All right, so when we're lifting our head up to breathe, always breathe out of our mouth. And these are some of the things that are important to know too. If you don't have a pool, let's say you can only go to the pool once a week or twice a week to practice, there are still ways that you can practice at home even without a pool. All right, you can fill up the bathtub and practice that way. You can fill up the sink and practice that way. And what she's saying is that she's committing to going home and practicing so that when she shows up to class next week, she's going to have a lot more reps under her belt. And that's really what drives progress in swimming, you guys. There's really two main things, right? It's relaxation. That's one. And then number two is just exposure and the amount that we're able to apply our comfort to base level technique through more exposure and to smooth things out. And that's what she's talking about, getting those reps. So now she's talking about how, and maybe you can relate to this. Leave a comment in the comment section below if you can relate to this, which is, it's not just a swimming class. Okay, for many of us, this is a very important life kind of moment or experience where we're planting our flag and saying, okay, I'm no longer going to be controlled by fear. I'm no longer going to be controlled by anxiety or things that happened as a child. I'm going to overcome that way of thinking. I'm not going to allow some future event to dictate what I'm able to do. I want to go snorkeling. I want to go to my backyard pool with my friends and family. I want to be able to swim laps and exercise. I want to do these things. And in order for me to be able to do those things, I have to go through swimming. And it helps me be safe next time I go to the pool, to the ocean, to the lake, or to a river. So it's not just a swimming class. This is a transformation in our way of life. So really, really exciting stuff, guys. And that's going to do it for that edition of our video analysis. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. What did you find interesting about this video? What can you apply to your strategy next time you go to the pool and try to learn how to breathe forward? And then what other videos would you like to see? And I've got a little bonus here if you're sticking around all the way to the end. If you want your video analyzed completely for free by me, please send that to jeff@caribeswim.com. And if you haven't already, click on the link in the description below. Join our Learn to Swim community. We are here to create a community of adults who all go through the experience of learning how to swim together. There's only so much that Meredith and I are able to do in delivering content and technique and relaxation methods. The rest, and this is the most profound aspect of this, comes from our community and being able to support each other through these major transformations in life. Guys, thank you so much for joining. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care.